Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm a registered massage therapist in BC. Today we're going to go over some self-care for your rotator cuff. Your rotator cuff is made up of 4 different muscles: the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and your subscapularis. These muscles are primarily responsible for keeping the head of your humerus, this ball part of your arm, centered in the glenoid fossa, the socket part of your shoulder blade. With muscles of this nature, when they get weak or this activity demands exceed their strength, our body will substitute tension. This can lead to injury or irritation of these muscles. For this reason, some controlled and cautious strength training can help alleviate that pain and irritation. We do need to be cautious with the dosing, so the repetitions and the level of resistance, because doing too much too fast can create some irritation. For this reason, the most important part of this exercise is selecting the correct resistance band. Resistance bands come in all colors, shapes, and sizes. We have some flat bands, rounded bands, or even some squared off bands. The shape of the band doesn't really affect this exercise, but the color typically will. Generally, resistance bands are indexed according to their color. The lighter the band, the lighter the resistance. The darker the color, the heavier the resistance. If you're not sure where to start, my recommendation is to select the lightest color band you have, and if it's too little resistance, you can always go heavier for the next time. These muscles are focused primarily on the control of the movement, not on the brute force. So even if you are a stronger individual, I would recommend choosing a band that is on the lighter side rather than opting for the heaviest band you have. Begin by placing a knot in the end of the band. Then place that knot in the door jamb, preferably on the hinge side of the door. And pull it closed, making sure it fully latches. You'll notice I'm on the closing side of the door, so that if it isn't fully latched, I won't accidentally pull it open and get a door to the face. It's also a really good idea to make sure that you're doing this in a door that is seldom used, goes to an empty room, or that you're able to lock so that nobody else will come and open the door and then you get a band to the face. There are 3 sets of exercises we want to focus on. I'm going to be demonstrating them all on my right hand. First, we're going to start with external and internal rotation. For these, we want the band at about hip or waist height. Holding the band and facing the appropriate direction so that the band comes across your body, simply taking up the slack. If we start with too much tension on the band, we're going to struggle getting to the end range. So just taking up the slack, keeping your elbow tucked into your side, and bring your hand away from your body. And slowly return to the starting position. You'll notice I'm focusing on controlling the movement as we come out, as well as controlling as we come back in. For the rotator cuff, the eccentric contraction is just as important as the concentric contraction. Really focus on getting right to that end range rather than going with a heavier band and only focusing on that mid-range. For the second position, you'll want to spin yourself around so that the band is now anchored beside you rather than across you. Again, taking up the slack, and slowly bring your hand towards your belly and return to the starting position. If you do not currently have a shoulder injury, this may not be the adequate range of motion for you. If that's the case, you can try an alternative. Simply bring your hand into your low back and lift your hand off of your back and bring it back to the starting position, making sure that you're keeping your elbow in the same place and not simply bringing your hand away from your low back with your elbow. Trying to bring your hand away keeping your elbow in the same place. For the second set of movements, we're going to return to the position where we have the band coming across our body. Unless you have a full gym setup, it's really hard to work the abduction range through the full range. So because we are working with a band here, we're going to be focusing mostly on the first 60 to 90 degrees of abduction. Again, making sure that you are facing so that the band is coming across your body. This time we are going to straighten our arm, so you're going to need to make sure that you're a little bit closer to the wall so you just take up the slack. Keeping your shoulder back and down, slowly bring your hand away from your body up to about shoulder height and slowly bring it back down. The first few times you do this exercise, you may want to try and set yourself up so you have a mirror you can look in. It's very easy to end up hiking our shoulder as we do this exercise, which then creates more irritation in the shoulder and can lead to some irritation in the neck. If you found yourself struggling with the last two sets of rotation, you may want to stay at that level and focus on those ranges before moving on to this next set. Or if you have a lighter band than you were using before, you can try this next set with that lighter band. For rotation, there are two main ranges that we want to focus on. The first is with our arm at our side, which is a more stable position because we can use our body to help create that stability. The second position is with our shoulder at 90 degrees. This is a less stable position because we're relying on the muscles of the shoulder blade to maintain that stability for us. For these ranges at 90 degrees, we're going to need to move the band up to about shoulder height. Again, facing the anchor point, coming into the point, you just take up the slack, starting with our hand facing forward. Keeping our elbow centered where it is, slowly pull back so your hand is level with the back of your head. Notice you need to work on keeping that shoulder stable so you're not dropping that elbow and you're not using your back to create the movement. Elbow stays still and simply bring your hand away from the wall. We then spin around so that the anchor point is now behind us. And depending on your comfort level, you may want to raise the anchor point so it's about head level rather than shoulder height. Taking up the slack in that same position with our elbow at 90 degrees from our body, keeping our elbow stable, slowly bring your hand down towards the ground. Be sure to keep your elbow stable so it's not a punch out and it's not a shoulder hike. Keep that elbow where it is. You can do each of these exercises about 3 to 5 times each. You'll want to do about 3 sets, and you can do that either in the individual exercise or you can go within the pairing to complete those sets. If you have frozen shoulder or some other shoulder injury that limits your range of motion, you can always modify these so that you are using the range that you have. The key is to make sure that you are going through the full range that you currently have and that you are maintaining proper form at all times. You may notice, particularly when you begin doing these exercises, that you need a lighter band for some exercises and a heavier band for others. That's okay. Consistency is key. These exercises are especially important if you have a history of shoulder injury or if you play or played any shoulder heavy sports like a throwing sport or swimming, gymnastics, among many others. If you have any questions about this or any other self-care tips, drop a comment below and I'll do my best to respond.